Here at Little by Little Homeschool, we are in the final 48-hour stretch before the conference. We are just so excited. I cannot wait. And there's a lot to do, but I am so blessed by my amazing family who is so willing to jump in and help, and the volunteers. If you are attending, I am really looking forward to seeing you on Saturday. Please be sure to come up, introduce yourself, give me a hug, and maybe we can get a quick picture. I'd love to be able to get a photo with you. If you are not able to attend, we would really appreciate any prayers. You know how big things like this and conferences, there can be a lot that goes on. We just would appreciate your prayers just for peace and just for all the logistics to fall into place. But even with the craziness, I am dedicated to this podcast. In the 3.5 years, I have not missed putting out a podcast. I mean, in the beginning, I did 3 times a week. That just became too much. And so twice a week. So I have not missed at all. And I love that. And we celebrated a couple episodes, 400 episodes. So that was that was 5 ago. So that was fun. So I realized, though, as I was putting together different topics, I realized we've never covered this topic that we're going to discuss today. So what do you do when your kids aren't as excited about homeschooling as you are? Welcome to Little by Little Homeschool Podcast, where we talk anything and everything homeschool and all that encompasses the homeschool lifestyle. I'm your host, Leigh Nguyen. I'm a mom who never intended to homeschool, and suddenly I am here, 14 years later, with 2 homeschool graduates and 1 more to go. No matter where you are in your homeschool journey, Little by Little Homeschool seeks to empower and encourage you to carry out this amazing calling of home educating and discipling your children. It's not always easy, but I'm here to walk alongside you because I promise that these years are worth all of your effort. Grab that load of laundry that needs folded, settle in at the kitchen sink to wash those dishes, or tie up those walking sneakers, and let's get into today's topic. I have a deep personal connection with this topic. So just know that it has been a hurdle for me with my children for most of our homeschool years, or even if I stop and I could think back to every single homeschool year and all the details, it's probably been something that has come up at least maybe even small times every single homeschool year, if maybe the entire year sometimes was covered by this type of theme. So what does this look like when you are excited about your homeschool and your kids are not? So it can look like this. When you're purchasing your curriculum, you're planning it all out, you're just so excited about everything that school year has, just the possibilities of it. And a lot of moms gather together and start planning for the homeschool year the spring previous to it starting. So then when you pull out everything in, say, maybe July, August, September, and you start looking at everything and you start to just get excited again because you just are so looking forward to introducing your children to these topics, and you took so much time to pick out the different curriculum and you poured over so many different resources. You put your hard-earned budget into it, and you just know of the great things that the homeschool year can hold. And then on the other end of it, you have a child or multiple children that are not excited. Sometimes this can look like them being okay with everything. The school year starts and they just kind of are feeding off of your energy when it first begins. But here we are, a month and a half, 2 months or so, depending on when you started, into the homeschool year, and their true colors have definitely come out. And it can look like just bad attitudes. It can look like negativity. It looks like you having to constantly remind them of everything that they need to do. It can be outright discipline issues. It can be a lot of heart issues. It can be them possibly talking back to you, them trying to get out of school all the time, them not doing their work or not doing it to the best of their ability. And so basically it's opposite ends of the spectrum. And what happens? That excitement that you have often typically starts to dwindle. Because how can you be excited about something when the person that you are providing this experience and education and this life that you've poured so much into, if they're like, wah, 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 and they are not into it? Say you plan a date for you and your husband. And you're like, yeah, I think he's really going to like this. And then you're like, oh, he didn't really like it. It really wasn't something that he was into. Or maybe this is before you guys got married and you're dating and you plan something and you don't really know him that well. And you're like, oh, in my mind, it was going to be so much better. That's me with jokes. I'll be like, oh, I remember this joke. I'm terrible at remembering jokes. And I'll say it and like he's knows the punchline or something. It just kind of falls flat because I'm not good at delivery. You're like, oh, okay. So that's kind of what it can look like. And it just brings you down. And I don't want you to be brought down unless maybe you're like way up in the clouds and we need to like just kind of come down a little bit to reality. Because we have to remember, we are not raising and educating and mothering, we'll say robots or just somebody that we can just program. We are raising and mothering and home educating and discipling and disciplining and all the things. Children, they are image bearers of God, but they have a sinful nature. And they don't always work with us. Sometimes they openly work against us. So what do you do when your kids are not as excited about homeschooling as you are? The first thing I think it's important to do is to recognize their feelings. I'm not saying you have to validate. You can kind of just look and decide, okay, is this something I want to talk to them about it? Or I just at the very bare minimum, recognize that they have these feelings about homeschooling, home education overall, or it could be about particular subjects or particular resources or curriculum that's going on. Let me throw this in there. Sometimes it's hard when we start a homeschool year and the kids have been free all summer. There can be some pushback. There can be, I don't even want to say hesitancy because it's a lot more than that. There can just be the resistance because they've had the summer free. And now you are kind of tying them down to possibly a couple of hours of focused work, whether that is sitting somewhere or whatever your plans are. And that can be hard to get over once you've had that freedom and everything. So just know that that could be part of it, but it could just be overall bigger. But let's recognize their feelings. You have the big picture in mind. You are in your 30s or your 40s or 50s or whatever age you are. You have a big picture. You understand that there are small moments in time. You understand that time tends to go faster as we get older. And here we are. I'm just like, wait, what? It's middle of October? I thought we just put away the Christmas decorations, and you're going to be telling me here in another month or two, I'm going to be pulling them back out. Where did the year go by? Do you feel like that too? But kids don't have that bigger picture to think like, oh, this is only a few months of my life. They don't think like that. So you don't see the big deal in it. You're like, why can we just not be cooperative for just 2 hours, Monday through Friday? Well, to them, it's a very long time. 2 hours every single day seems like an overwhelming amount of time. And you're like, wow, those 2 hours can go by really fast. Well, they might go really slow if you have a kid that's really pushing back and resistant to this. But they just don't have that big picture that just working on this subject or that, yes, math is a little bit hard this year. Let's not be so negative about it because you're like, you'll get it. These math facts are going to click. I know they're going to click. You're going to get it and we're going to move on and math is going to be fine and everything in life is going to be fine. They don't have that picture. So recognize their feelings. I had heard years ago, and I know you've heard this statement as well, that kids, when they come to you for something, they're little and they want to show you or tell you something, or they're just having like this overwhelming reaction to something, it's a big deal to them. And so when our kids come to us and they might say something that happened and they're just being very dramatic about it, and you're like, no, okay, this is how they're seeing it through their 4-year-old eyes and their 4 years of experience of life. And you as a 30-year-old are like, that's really, the response doesn't really quite fit the situation, but that's just what they know. That's how they view life. That's the amount of experience that they have. But if we blow off our kids, if we ignore them when they come to us, when they are little, with something that they think is so big, they're going to then not come to us when they're older, when they really are big things. So recognize their feelings and that they have these emotions about this instead of just ignoring it and just coming down with a harder fist and saying, we are doing this. Because what's going to happen is you're going to push them away. And as they begin to get older, They're going to push you away, and I don't want that to happen. Number two, what to do. So first, recognize their feelings. Second is to understand that kids overall have a lack of control in most of their life, right? You tell them when to go to bed. You might tell them when they need to get up in the day. You tell them they have to brush their teeth. They have to eat breakfast now. This is when they eat lunch. This is when we're doing school. This is when we're going and doing this. This is how we're going to celebrate this holiday. And they just don't have a lot of control in their life. And you might have a child that is seeing, okay, I can exert some control over my life by having a negative attitude, or at the very least being not excited and not helpful and really pushing back when it comes to homeschool. They might see it as a way to be able to control something. So what do you do if you suspect that this is what it is? One idea on how to approach this with them possibly exerting this negativity because they're just trying to control it is, if your plans for your homeschool are important to you and you're saying, I don't want to bend on this. I don't think it's the right thing. I feel like this is the vision and the goals that God has given us. I feel like these are the next steps. Then maybe you can give them some control in other areas of their life. Maybe you have signed them up for a lot of extracurricular activities and they're really not into all of them. Maybe you give them some control and you talk about it and decide which ones you guys really want to do, well, what they really want to do, and know that it's okay to pull out of some of those. Maybe they're overwhelmed because you're going to 3 different co-ops a week and they're also in 1 or 2 sports, and then there's church activities. Maybe this is a way during the day. They could possibly just be exhausted. Sometimes negativity comes out because kids are tired and exhausted. Are they getting their sleep? Do they have some margin in their life to actually enjoy their life? And if you're like, okay, nope, they're getting their rest, they have other margin and stuff, but if there are some areas that maybe you can kind of give them a little bit of control. Maybe it's being a little more flexible with when they get up in the morning or when breakfast is, or asking them what they would like to have for breakfast, or giving them permission to just go ahead and make their own breakfast for themselves or for them and their siblings. But giving them some control maybe in another aspect of their day might allow them then to kind of let things go and be okay with what you have planned for the home education, the homeschool. Number 3, building off of that with talking about the control is, I didn't want to lump it into that one. I want to kind of give it a little bit of a separate place, is that you can give them some control and a little bit of say when it comes to the homeschool. So you can do some things like adjusting. So instead of possibly writing out a paragraph to something, you do narration or something orally, or you ask them questions. I am not a proponent of testing, of doing subject testing or even standardized testing. I did do a podcast episode about that. You can listen to that, but maybe you use the tests that are in there and you just do them orally. Now, if it's math and it's long division, that kind of stuff, probably not going to do that orally. But there are some subjects that you could just do orally instead of having them write it down. Maybe you can give them a little bit of say as to the order of the day or the order of the subjects that they would do. Maybe you can consider them when you are picking out some of the content subjects, some of the different topics that you can do, and asking their ideas. It could be something like, maybe it comes down to science and there is a particular book series or something that you like, and it doesn't have to be done in any certain order. And you ask your kids, which ones would you like to do? Or maybe you have one child specifically that's struggling a bit more, and you allow them to choose which one you do. So it doesn't say there's like 6 of them you could choose from, and you can do all of them or none of them. And it doesn't matter the order that you do. Your kids are all in elementary age range, and so you can just pick it, whichever one. You let them say, hey, what would you like to study in, say, science next year? Or what time period in history would you like to study? How about geography? Or are there just, give them some options. Let them have a say. And then possibly you might find that their attitudes adjust and change because they know that their input, that their opinion, their ideas are valued by you. And they might just go along with the math curriculum that you chose because they know that the rest of the day is going to be a little bit better. But also study them. Kind of look, what would they like to learn more about? It's always been so much fun for me to study my kids and then to present them, even especially in the older years, in the high school years, and be like, hey, this is a course we can do this year. And they're like, really? We can do that? And it's going to, in air quotes, count as school? Absolutely. And so when we study them and we find resources that we just know they're going to love and come alive with, that can definitely change the attitude. And hopefully they will become excited about homeschool and hopefully just as excited about it as you are. Number 4, sometimes we just need to teach our kids that we need to do some hard things, that it's okay, that everything isn't fun. Most kids, what's the goal of their day? If you said that most kids' goal is to have fun and as much fun as possible in a day, then you are probably correct. I mean, that's been my experience. That's what they want to do. They want to have some fun during their days. And sometimes we have to teach them that it's okay to do something that's hard or something that's not as fun, or that the goal, it maybe necessarily isn't fun. Yes, you can adjust that maybe difficult math curriculum that you chose, and you can do math a different way. You don't have to use a curriculum. You can do it a different way and to make it fun. But sometimes we just need to teach our kids it's okay. It is not going to hurt them to sit down and do some hard things. And we do that because we're preparing them for actual real life. Real life doesn't include just focusing on having fun and having a good time every single day, because we would end up neglecting our responsibilities. Someday, I assume, your hope is that your sons will be husbands that are leading families, and that your daughters will be wives who love their husband and cherish their children and take care of them, and that they are a beautiful family unit together. Doing hard things now will help them with that. You might say, okay, I have a 5-year-old. So you're just going to teach them small little hard things. But if you have a 15-year-old, you're going to say, you know what? No, we're going to sit down. We're going to do this hard thing. We're going to work through this tough math problem, or we are going to read this hard book and we're going to work at our comprehension and understanding it, or writing a hard paper. It's okay to do hard things. And yes, we can teach our kids to do hard things outside of the curriculum. Absolutely. But sometimes we can use the curriculum and the resources and our homeschool time to teach them that hard does not mean that it isn't worth our time. Often those hard things are the things that count the most, that shape our character. And so that is the overall goal, is how can I work with my kids? They have these negative attitudes, but what is it? What's in their heart? How can I shape their heart? How can I work on their character? And how can we, as a family, get to the other side of this? I really hope this episode has given you some ideas, given you some fuel to make some changes that you might feel that are needed in your homeschool. If you enjoy the podcast and you do not get the emails that drop into the inbox on Tuesdays, it's called 2-Tip Tuesday, and I include a bunch of things in that email. If you would like to receive that weekly email, make sure you check out the link that's in the show notes and go ahead and get on that list. I would love to be able to pop into your inbox and give you a hello and tell you just a little bit more about what's going on, a little homeschool, but just also be able to provide you with some other resources outside of the podcast. Love to be able to connect with you outside the podcast and through your email. So be sure to check out that link that's going to be in the show notes just for you. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If it was just what you needed to hear, would you do me a favor and share it with a friend? And if you would like to connect more, social media links and more are in the show notes just for you. I promise to see you back here real soon.